Response video to comments again. Okay, so this KJ111 guy, I have blocked him or whatever, banned him, because on the next video he posts as another person, like applauding himself, which is just about as lame as you can get on the internet, right? So, I mean, he's just a time waster in the end. He doesn't respond to anything real here. So, but I'll go through his comments. At least he's literate. He wrote sentences. And they're probably sentences that some people do think. So I might as well respond to it. Sorry, Gary, you fail again all over the place. Yeah, whatever. To use your own phrase, you still haven't even remotely approached a plausible scientific explanation as to how people can work towards a better future when they live in a deterministic universe. Alright, the fact that there is determinism, that there will be an inevitable future, doesn't change the fact that human beings navigating through this thing called the present don't know the future. So they can only go by what looks like the future is going to be. And they can see when the future is going to eliminate certain possibilities. So if I want the future to have a shining city on the hill, and I see us ready to blow up the last hill that exists, alright, to turn into a strip mine or something, well then I kind of realize that the future will never have my shiny city on a hill, because they're going to blow the hill up. And so I will understand that if I want my future to be the future, if there's any chance of my future being the future, I obviously have to do something, or it's not going to happen, because we've closed down that as a possible road for the future. The future can't travel roads that we don't end up paving. And we close roads when we pave over hills that the shiny city's going to be on. Retard. The fact that you could barely articulate a sentence in the last few, well, more ad hominem stuff, shows a mire you're talked yourself into. Well, whatever. We could have an argument about who's articulate and who isn't on the internet, and what class I fit into. The point is complex. These things like infinite, there's concepts that are a little hard to do the brain thing around, because there's the idea of determinism, the thought we have, the word determinism with the letters in it, and then there's the actual determinism. We're having a conversation about what is the impact of the word determinism on people's psychology. We're not talking about actual determinism. That conversation's already over. We've defined it and described it. Nothing is spontaneous. Nothing, this whole sentence, everything I'm doing right now was all inevitable. Everything that will happen, will happen. That isn't in dispute. What is in dispute is what is the meaning of the words. Okay, the word determinism is what's being argued. Shit for brains. Okay, God, you're just so fucking dumb. How on earth can you say we can't let determinism discourage us? Again, the word determinism will, how we interpret it, what we make it mean inside of our brains, will change our programming. Will, like every word, like every sentence. And if somebody interprets determinism, okay, as something that says it's all going to happen anyway, I can't do anything about it, I'm not invested. It's like in a war, the people have to think they're going to win the war. If they don't think they're going to win the war, they have hope to win the war, they wouldn't fight the war. You get it? How do you fight determinism? Question mark. Well, as I just explained, it's just a word when it's in our head. We can't fight determinism. All we can do is fight people's perception of the determined truth, what they have assumed to be the truth of the future. And we could say, no, that's not the future if we communicate and do this instead of that. I mean, if we don't, you know, make the planet toxic, it's one of like the first steps to surviving the future is you can't over pollute the planet. You can't catch it on fire. You know, if you're gonna have a house to live in, you have to take certain precautions so the fire doesn't start. The fire isn't inevitable. The fire is only going to exist if you're stupid or reckless or not cautious. Shit. I mean, you've got to. You don't get heart attacks because you get heart attacks. You get heart attacks because you eat a bunch of crap and it puts a bunch of clogs in your goddamn artery. Well, sorry, Mystic. Didn't mean to imply something. Anyway, never mind that subject. But the point is some stuff doesn't happen to you. It happens because of cause and effect. And if you can identify the causes, then you can have an effect. And it's all determined. But part of the determinism is understanding your role and understanding what you're capable of and actualizing what you're capable of. I mean, there are different imaginary scenarios for my activity. I could pick up this bottle and throw it in the air. Okay, it was inevitable I was going to do that. But before I threw the bottle, it was just one of the possibilities. And we know, theoretically, I could have not thrown the bottle if I said, that's the rule this time, I won't throw it. Like, this time, I won't throw it. It was determined that I wouldn't throw it. But the point is, before it happened, it could have been exactly the opposite way if we had prearranged it to be exactly the opposite way. You use language about choosing a future, if the future we want. Yes, so we can look at the possibilities, because we can't know for sure what's going to happen. We can say what possibilities are open to humankind, and we can say, I would like that one. All right, we can do that. In a deterministic world, the future will be what it'll be. Yes, regardless, we don't know it. Again, how many times do we have to reiterate that? Regardless of your wishes. It's not about wishes, you stupid fuck. Okay? You don't wish the future, you act the future. So, are you going to say the future will be what it will be regardless of your actions? No, it won't be what it will be regardless of my actions. If I decide tonight that, okay, I'm going to go out and make sure something happens and I'll strap a bomb on me and do something, because I figured out that that's the way that's what needs to happen for the future to change, or this is the last hope to save the hill that I want the city built on, then that's where then that'll be my deterministic fate. That'll be how and it could be that I was a Martin Luther King. It could be that I was just a jackass, whatever, it's Timothy McVeigh. You don't know beforehand whether you're going to win or lose. You're just investing in behavior with the expectation of this keeps a road open or this closes a wrong road. Your confusion, I have no confusion, is a classic case of having your cake and eating it. Well, again, there's no confusion. You don't prove any of this stuff and you don't respond to anything I've said. And what's it all about? And what's this all about, the world becoming a more beautiful or elegant place? I didn't say the world has become a more beautiful and elegant place. Did I say that? No. I said intelligence has made people more elegant in terms of how they think. I'm a much improved human being over a man 1,000,000 years ago, over a human 10,000 years ago, over one even a few hundred years ago. And I am that way because of knowledge and understanding. And there's just no doubt about it, jackass. I'm personally acquainted with myself, and I know how much better a human I am than those assholes were. How do you square that with antinatalism? Antinatalism is the end conclusion. The first conclusion is that suffering matters, and that you do everything you can to mitigate against the sloppy waste and nonsense that human beings engage in. And ultimately you realize that even if you fix it as best humans can fix it, you take out the grotesque waste, the game is still stupid and shouldn't be played. So antinatalism is the taking logic to the conclusion. The point is, though, there are steps you can take that are improvements on horrible. So obviously horrible is the enemy, waste is the enemy, grotesque stupidity is the enemy. Alright, and all of those are consistent with both trying to improve the world and antinatalism. Antinatalism is just a statement that this is the best case scenario. Don't create more living things because they can't do anything beyond making a mess. ANs believe human life is unjustifiable under any circumstances, and now you're going about improving the world. Well, again, the two are not inconsistent beliefs. There's reason to improve the world, it's logical, and there's reason to stop making more people. They're both perfectly consistent belief systems, idiot. Continue. The population of the world is skyrocketing, and I've talked extensively about how that's not a good thing. The ideal AN is a world with no people. No, it's with no sentient life, idiot. How do you square that particular circle? Well, again, there's no circle, so you're off subject again. And in terms of suffering, you say that the percentages is what counts. Wrong. Percentages don't feel suffer. Rejoice. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about the general idea that human beings were improving in terms of their behavior, policies, principles, ideals, in terms of basically their function. And when I'm saying the average human doesn't kill anybody, where 10,000 years ago the average human did kill somebody, the average human doesn't get killed violently, where 10,000 years ago the average human did die a violent death. So these are substantial differences and improvements, and if you want to pretend they're not, I'm just saying that's silly. So whatever. There is more individual suffering in the world now than ever due to poverty. There's more individual suffering in the world because of population increases, and that's why I'm against population increases. So again, I'm not disagreeing with that. It's not about how much suffering there is in the world. There's how much suffering is in the world through the deliberate acts of people. Alright? And it's not deliberate suffering anymore. It's stupid, ignorant, dumb people creating the suffering with their good intentions. Alright? The amount of bad intentioned suffering is much less. The amount of people who are deliberately having children in stupid circumstances. Slaves were forced to breed in a lot of cases. Poor people do it voluntarily. They breed their children into slavery. Okay, so that's a completely different scenario. Who are you going to blame there? You can't blame the slave master. You have to blame the asshole, incompetent fuckwit, okay, who's in a trapped, who feels trapped and yet has children in their trapped circumstances. There's assholes who willfully have children while they're in prison. You get it? I'm surprised to see someone of your integrity ignore this obvious truth. Looks, again, I haven't ignored anything. You've just perverted the language and perverted the concepts and perverted the meaning of them. And the fact that you're a pervert is now proven because now you create fake accounts to applaud your own comments. So that makes you, like, so super lame. Are you desperately yeah, you're the desperate guy. You have to applaud your own speeches, so that's pretty lame. Looking for some hope to cling to. Okay, sorry, it's late. Well, it's actually too early and I have to still go back to bed. I just woke up to take a pee and I ended up reading this crap, and so now I'm responding to it. Alright, so now we'll go to the newest video. It has a mystic comment on it. Let's see if there's anything on here that needs any further crapola. Oh, one more. Oh, that's the other guy. I don't think it matters. You seem to be under the delusion that everyone is working towards a happy future. Well, I know the guy isn't, but whatever. So I'll ignore that. This is just rubbish. I mean, it is nice that this asshole created some comment energy on the video, so I feel a little bad about banning him, but, you know, it's just bullshit. So, alright, so anyway, he posted this comment as the KJ guy, then he posted a comment. Nice to see someone finally tell Gary how full of shit he is. So he's basically rewarding his own comment, which is really, really lame. Yeah, let's get him done, and then I'll do Mystic. Fail yet again, Gary. You keep employing the language of choice and potentiality while clinging to dogmatic determinism. It's not dogmatic determinism. It's just basically a scientific theory that really can't be poked at with anything substantial. There's no evidence of anything else but determinism. So it wins. I don't. The language of choice it only exists in the fact that there is no such thing as potential. Okay, probability, let's say. Probability doesn't really exist. I've made videos saying those exact words. It's only a symptom of our ignorance that we establish probability. So yeah, everything's inevitable. And I've repeatedly pointed out the context of the word choice. There is no choice, there is decision. Okay, but decision will be based on the weighing of information. So in that sense, there's a choice in the sense of your brain will do a kind of logic on the circumstance that exists. It will weigh things, but it won't be any literal choice, because all of it's inevitable in the sense that all of it's mechanical. The choice is mechanical. It's not free or liberal. It's a choice based on garbage in, garbage out. But there is a difference between what's in and what goes out, and that you could call choice. You say if the future is going to be deterministically a good one, a mush of contradictions if I ever heard one. Well, see, I mean, this is why the conversation has to be literate and careful and well constructed. It's a perfectly reasonable and sensible statement. Okay, if the future is going to be deterministically a good one. It's just saying there is going to be a future. If that future is going to be a good one, it will be through determinism, and we will have to deterministically act in a certain way for that to happen. Not that complicated. And certainly not full of any contradictions. The future is determined. There is no if. Well, again, there's a huge, big, giant pile of if from here. From here we can see things again. I'll reiterate. Alright, we can see roads to certain futures closing. Right here, we can see us potentially suffocating in our own excrement. That's a road that's open. Okay, it's becoming more possible, not less possible, through each day's activity. And so you have to recognize the fact that that's where that road seems to be paving more than the, oh, everything will work out kind of okay road. That road's getting narrower and narrower, and the road to complete fuck up is getting wider and harder and firmer. And you have to draw conclusions based on that. What we can determine as likelihoods and probabilities based on our ignorance from this position looking at the future. I mean, this isn't that complicated. You claim people, the future is determined, there is no if. Well, again, I don't need that told to me. I already know that, shithead. You claim people can influence the future. I claim people's actions will dictate the future. I claim people's actions will dictate the future. Complicated? I don't think that's complicated. But if people are determined, then the future is only the unknown. But if people are determined, then the future is only the unknown, yet fully determined outcome of the innumerable interactions between all the programmed cogs. Correct enough. The future is yet unknown, but it will be an outcome that will be dependent on cogs. You know, people doing coggery. You're the one who still clings to a God idea. Well, I don't know where that is. The idea that people can choose. No, I don't cling to any idea. I say decisions are made. Brains make decisions based on information put in, based on the quality of their understanding and logic. If they don't understand the word determinism, and they think the word determinism means I don't have any role to play, well then determinism isn't going to make them do what they need to do to make the world a better place. the future in a world of determinism. Choose the future in a world of determinism. Well, in a sense, they will choose the future in the sense that they will logically weigh choices, and their brain will logically decide. If they do good logic, they'll decide one thing. If they do bad logic, they'll decide another thing. So in that sense, a choice is made, a decision is made. It's deterministic, so it's not a free choice, but it's a choice nonetheless. Between imagined possibilities, and the imagined possibilities do exist in their brain. They don't exist in reality. There's no possibilities in reality, but in our brain there are possibilities because we don't know the future. We can only know indicators of possibility. That's all we can know from here. Stupid fuck. You're the one who still clings to the God idea. Your idea that people can do blah, blah, blah. Now, you're like the Christian who says he's an atheist but can't stop thinking in religious categories. Well, again, you can make that accusation. You can say I have flat feet. You can't prove it. You haven't demonstrated with evidence. So in my opinion, it deserves nothing but a fuck you. Prove that, shithead. Demonstrate with some kind of evidence. There's no evidence of me being anything like a Christian. So fuck you. Alright, here's the other one. I gotta speed this up. So anyway, this is the one where he's self-applauding himself. Nice to see someone fully tell Gary how full of shit it is. Our language revolves around... This is probably Q or some other asshole. Our language revolves around the assumption of free will and choice. I might, I could, I should. These phrases all imply an open-ended future. Right, so it's very negative that they imply an open-ended because there's no open-ended. We already know possibilities and probabilities. And impossibilities, essentially. A determinist talking about how we have the power to decide the future is really very funny. Well, again, our actions will decide the future. Our actions are determined, but they're going to happen because of what we think is possible. What we think is possible or probable will dictate our actions. So if we don't think accurately about what the possibilities and probabilities are, then we won't act properly. Right? If you knew your car was going to, your wife and kids go out into the car in the morning to go do their business. If you knew in advance that the car is going to be in a horrible accident today, you wouldn't let your wife and kids get in the car, would you? No, that's right, you would act because you thought it was not a good day to drive the car or some other kind of thing like that. And that's what we don't have. We don't have that perfect information. We only have indications. So if you saw the brake lines leaking, you might say, you know, dear, better not drive that car today. Gary also assumes his vision is the only one. Well, you know, I'm not going to argue about why Gary is confident and how Gary doesn't think anyone's made a rational counter-argument to a thing Gary has ever said. But that's the fact of it, okay? So if you want to quote all the brilliant people who have counteracted anything I've said, besides assholes like you who just ad hominem attack and say Gary has flat feet without proving it, I don't have much to say to you. He's right and everyone else is wrong. Well, he's so far got a really good correct record. That's right. He ignores the fact that there are intelligent people out there who have a totally different vision to his. Well, I don't ignore the fact. That's why I'm talking. It's because I'm trying to persuade them that they're complete assholes and they've got it way fucking wrong. Asshole. And in his deterministic world, there can be no argument or exchange. I argue and exchange all the fucking time. What I don't do is lie and pretend to be somebody else and play bullshit games like that, fuckwit, and hide my identity and all that and other nonsense. Just determined robots smashing off each other, yet he talks as if he has the power to change and influence others. What the fuck do you think you're trying to do here, shithead? You're validating your own comment. Why? For the purpose of satisfying yourself? No. For the purpose of somehow trying to make your comment more credible so you could persuade people that Gary's wrong. You're doing it right there at your very self. You're trying to persuade people to change their point of view, you fucking asshole. Why else did you post these comments? You knew they weren't going to change my mind, so you're obviously playing to an audience, and that's why you would applaud yourself. I mean, fuck. I mean, you're just... You're too fucking stupid. Yet he talks as if he has the power to change and influence others. Everyone else is determined and he is free. Well, again, I've never said anything of the case. I've said it many times over and over again that I'm a complete product of my environment, and it is kind of curious that, you know, my environment was completely run by all these cliches and all this routine, all these people who believe the status quo, and yet somehow I generated out of all that crap. What a joke. Yeah, well, like I said, you're the laughing, stocky kind of joke now, fella. So, we knew you were an asshole, and you just proved how big an asshole you were. So, in Mystic, it should be some fun here. It would help if you said something like, I have no choice but to shout at those poor people who, whatever. It would help if you said something like, I have no choice but to... I said exactly that. I said it's my deterministic fate to hear you say something like, you're nobody, and react with, that doesn't say it. That isn't nearly good enough. That's not going to tell people what they need to hear to do anything productive in the world. That you don't tell the soldiers in the war, you're nobody and we're going to lose. No, you tell them we're fucking, it's like the Rocky movie, right? You tell Rocky, you say, you know, Rocky says, I think I got a headache. And you say something like, no, you don't got no fucking headache. You're a fucking Italian tank and you're going to fucking blow the fucking shit out of it. You know, you don't talk down our power. You talk up the deterministic power. You talk up the fact that we are going to pave the road to the future. We're going to do that. We're going to pave the road to the future. You know, you keep focused on the future and on getting as much as possible out of people, not as little as possible. Again, we are a creature of our motivations. All right? I mean, if there was some jackass saying you're nobody to Gandhi or to Martin Luther King, he just kept saying, well, you know, deterministically, you're nobody. The universe is just universing. I just don't think that would have kept their eye on the ball. Fucker. Matrix Flower has a couple of good discussion points. Well, maybe you think they are, but I don't mind. I'll give it a shot. What effect might it have on enlightened people's discussion on whether to reproduce further choiceless, helpless creatures? Yeah, well, again, I don't see anything wrong with a conversation about determinism. But if the conversation is going to end with conclusions like the universe is just universing and you're a nobody, what I'm saying is that's no good. That we going to have to keep talking about it because those words aren't going to do the job. They're not saying enough about determinism. Determinism is about realizing the fact that you have to think you're Martin Luther King to be Martin Luther King. You're not going to be Martin Luther King. You're not going to do anything great or magnificent or get the most out of your potential if you don't think you can do it. I mean, it isn't going to happen if people don't think they can do it. So you can't let determinism undo or unravel their motivation. I am a hard determinist, yet I am not without motivation. I am not without a constant perception in my head that I have to not allow any thoughts to distract me from trying to excrete the best I can out of myself. I fail my own expectations every day. I feel like I'm not doing the job well enough. But I'm focused on always understanding that there is a best I can do, and I want to achieve the best I can do. I mean, determinism has to be consistent with that ideology, not some ideology like people are assholes, you can't fix assholes, they're always going to be assholes, I can't convince anybody, I can't say anything to change anything in people's brains, serial killers are always serial killers, and child molesters are always child molesters, and everything's always what it is. It can never think differently. It can never know better. It can never change. I mean, if I keep thinking nothing can change or no one can change, then obviously there's no point in even having a conversation with anybody. But obviously I think they can be changed, and I think words have the power to do that. So that's why I'm going to continue to throw words at this fucking camera with the hope that some of these words might sink in and they might say, oh yeah, I get it. Determinism doesn't mean we can't change anything in the present. It just means we can't change the inevitable. But that we are part of the inevitable. And that we will be reading scripts. And we need to read a really good script if we're going to be good people. Oh, fuck. Alright, anyway, and the point about knocking down the silly egos that cause so much trouble in the world. Again, whether that you do that through an argument of determinism, because that gets more into the value equation, in my opinion. I mean, the insidiousness of ego isn't the fact that we have egos, it's that the egos create a selfish, self-obsessed organism that doesn't think about the social good or the end game destination of the human race. And I'm just saying, when you say the universe universing, you're sort of implying that the end game is not something that people need to be concerned with. And I'm saying they have to be acutely concerned, because that's what motivates them to do. It's our actions that will dictate the determinism. Our thoughts are deterministically controlled, but our thoughts are not what make the world different. Our actions are. But obviously our thoughts will dictate our actions, so we have to have the thoughts first. And so if I don't get people thinking they are the instrument of a better world, then they won't be the instrument of a better world. Damn, this isn't that complicated. I mean, if I don't water seeds, they're not going to grow, kind of a thing. And words like the universe universing and you're a nobody isn't water. I do not believe that a widespread acceptance of lack of free will would lead to people not being able to get out of bed. Or again, and there's just no dispute here. I'm not against people being deterministic. I'm not against completely annihilating the concept of free will. I hate the concept of free will. I'm totally against anybody believing in free will. Again, I'm not talking about rejecting determinism. I'm talking about rejecting your definition of determinism. I think your definition is woefully inadequate. I think it's a pile of shit. Your nobody is not a description of fucking goddamn determinism. It's not a fucking counter argument to free will. It's not good enough. How many fucking times do I have to say that? I don't think it's nearly good enough. It's a silly cliche kind of... It's one fucking word. How the fuck is that a definition of determinism? You're nobody. Oh, shit. Or acting badly if they did get up and do things. Well, again, acting is the key words here, right? Acting badly. Acting goodly requires more understanding than I am a nobody. If I say to myself, the universe is universing and I'm a nobody, yeah, that's not going to do much. That's not going to get people willing to do the swallow my ego, sacrifice for the greater good, all of that crap that is required for people to get the most as they can out of themselves, which will in turn make it possible for us to get the most out of our destiny. I mean, we're not going to have a good destiny unless people make the road to good destiny, and the road to good destiny isn't going to be fucking fun. Enough. Thank you very much. Till the next time.